Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next The Promised Neverland anime review. This one's going to be for Season 2, Episode 1. Finally Season 2 The Promised Neverland is here. And in my mind, this was a pretty good start to the season. I've obviously read the full manga, so this, I suppose, will be more of a, how good the adaptation was type review, more so than the content itself. Especially, I think, with this episode and what it did. I don't think the actual, content necessarily that this episode covered was the most, discussion-worthy stuff necessarily, in that I very much felt, and it's kind of similar in the manga, this is the section of the story that is just, you kind of just need to get through it. And in that sense, the adaptation and how they did it is that they covered about 8 chapters of the manga in just this one episode, and they really flew through it. I was a little worried going into Season 2 with how they were going to open it up, in that I don't think this would have been the best start to the season if they had to spend 2 or 3 episodes in this forest immediately after the escape, doing all of the stuff that they actually do in the manga over the course of 8 chapters. In my mind, what you had to do is pretty much beeline it to get to Sanju and Mujika, because they're where the story really kicks into gear. And in that sense, the adaptation here, yes, was very, very fast-paced. It skipped over a decent amount of stuff if you want to be super accurate to how it was in the manga chapters. But in my mind, they picked out the important details from all of these chapters and included them here. So I don't really feel that anything particularly of note was missed. And given that I think there's only going to be 11, 12 episodes this season, I'm happy that they've done it here, skipping over stuff, so they can potentially cover the later content, which is more important, getting into the Goldie Pond stuff. That feels much more important, and they'll give that the time it needs. So usually, I suppose, with a manga, you'd almost be hoping an episode covers, maybe 2 to 3 chapters. This one covered 8, so that was impressive. For anyone wondering with the manga where we're at, Season 2 starts off pretty much towards the start of Volume 5. The first 3 chapters of Volume 5 cover the very end of Season 1, and then starting with Chapter 38 is where Season 2 kicks off. So you get I'll just show you the table of contents here. So you can see here 38, Forest of Vows, that's what we got here. The same with 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, and then the first 2 chapters of Volume 6 are also covered here. So what they basically skipped over, in my mind, was most of chapters 39 and 40 specifically. And then 41, I think they picked up most on, in that reading the manga, what you maybe focus on more during this little forest arc immediately after the escape is the snakes of... what's the exact name again? The snakes of Alva Pinera, which they cover here in the episode, but they do it in a slightly different way. In the manga, what happens is that basically all of the kids actually get caught by the snakes of Alva Pinera, and they have to use the book to figure out how to get out of them. But in this, they actually explain that, because we have the book, we know what to avoid and how to survive out here. So they actually avoid getting caught in the snakes of Alva Pinera, which are basically vines that react to touch and kind of movement, motion near them, and so on. In the manga, the main solution to this was just that Emma had to show them all to be sort of confident around them, and that once you don't touch them, the vines won't actually go for you. So once you avoid them very carefully, it's fine. It's a fun clever little thing that happens, but it's not a particularly important thing. That's what I'd say. So yeah, they do skip over most of about 2 or 3 chapters, but I think that is a good adaptation decision, because pacing-wise in the manga, I actually didn't particularly think that that section was all that great. So them actually jumping in and focusing more on the demon who finds them and is chasing them to set up the other sort of demon hunters that are after them, because of course 3 of them at the very least are highest grade humans to them. And just in general, all of the kids from this particular farm, Isabella's farm, are really high level also. So they want to capture all of these alive. And so this wild demon is killed by some of the more intelligent demons that are following them. And that sets up sort of what ends up being, I suppose, probably the main character thing from this episode, which is Ray's reaction immediately after the escape. Because you have to go back to season 1 and remember that he was about to kill himself to help the others survive. We were potentially in a situation where we might have lost 2 of our main 3 characters just to make the escape attempt happen. And so if not for Emma and the others stepping up and basically creating this whole extra plan that Norman had kind of facilitated, Ray might have also been lost. And he kind of feels that him maybe not trying to do things on his own got in the way and might have made the plan go even a little bit more smoothly than it went. But Ray's development from that is that he is committed to being part of the group now. He's going to work with them. He will, put himself on the line to protect them. But it seems like, oh, is this not just him sacrificing himself again? But he does a good enough job in what he says of making it clear that no, me luring this demon away isn't me sacrificing myself. I will find my way back to you. We will meet at, B06, was it 32? I think is the, I think it's one of the chapter titles is here, so I get it right. Yeah, B0632, yeah. That's the area they need to go to, which is the other, I suppose, major detail that we get here, is that, okay, they've escaped. What's their plan now that they're on the outside? So the book that they have related to a lot of the William and Minerva stuff that we learned about in the first season is how they figure out how to survive out here. They learn stuff about the world on the outside from the book, and that explains to them how to survive in the forest, as well as just how to avoid stuff like the traps in the forest, and so on. I think the manga, again, covers a little bit more detail about how they find water in specific plants, but here they more cover the fact that they compress it a little bit and it's less time, but by the time they need water, Sanju and Mujika have already helped them and they supply water. But again, it's basically the same thing. Because of, I suppose, a plot point that's going to happen with Sanju and Mujika, I sort of get why they didn't feel the need to effectively cover something similar happening twice in terms of survival training. And I again, ultimately, I think that's a solid adaptation decision to make. But what they do get at here is that, okay, how do they know where they are? That's where the pen that Krona left behind to Norman, who left behind to everyone, comes into play. And that pen, when they activate it, it obviously has the kind of projector type thing. And it says they're at, what is it, 0112 or something like that. And they get across the idea. They visually show it here. It's a grid map. We're in 1 across, 12 down or whatever it is. And we need to get to 0632. That's where they'll find potentially William and Minerva. And they explain to the rest of the group who are not familiar with this whole thing, this is the situation. William Minerva's been sending messages inside secretly. We've figured it out. And specifically, he is saying that if you want to find us, there's a whole puzzle section here where a specific word on a page of the book is the password to get this message from him specifically. So if they go here, they'll find him. And that's a really cool mystery and setup for, yeah, who is this human on the outside sending information in to help the children that are in the farms? Really, really cool mystery overall. But it gets across, okay, they're in 0112 and they have to get up to 632. They're quite a bit away, so there's a bit of traveling to be done before they can get there. Ray distracts the demon, of course, and along the way, the more intelligent demons come after him. And it's a cool moment of him just standing his ground in front of them and just confidently showing off his number, making it clear, I am a high grade item, basically. and just realizing that, oh, they're not going to just kill me because of how important and valuable I am, that they have put so much time and effort into making me like intelligent enough. They're not going to like damage me because I'm such important food. And I can't remember, have they, I don't think they've given the full context behind like why it's so important, but there's more reasons behind like why they, in particular, like who is going to be fed with these specific characters. They don't want to damage that sort of food, basically. So that all works out really well, but what ends up happening is that as things begin to go very wrong in terms of Ray's gone off on his own and it looks like he's running out of energy, someone rushes in to save Ray. The rest of the group also begins to struggle, as even though Don and Gilda have taken up some of the sort of leadership slack by training everyone to have like hand signals and run in groups, Emma is still the sort of central figure of the group. But she's suffering from the fact that she's just had her ear cut off, basically. And it's been sort of like haphazardly kind of, sealed up. And so that reopens and she's suffering from a fever, combined with just, the amount of effort they're exerting, the amount of like intensity they're undergoing. She just collapses. And so it feels like on both sides of this story, it's all falling apart. The escape has happened, but now it's failing at this specific section. But then someone else, a girl here, appears to help the rest of them. And so we quickly cut then to Ray wakes up, Emma's right next to him. What's just happened here? They're safe. And then the girl comes out and is like, oh yeah, the others are just in here. It's fine. And the end of the episode is the girl, Mujika. They're going to reveal the name in like the next episode. I don't think it's really too much of a spoiler to say the name of the character here. So she says the other guy's name is Sanju, who saves Ray. That they have saved everyone, and the big thing is, Ray says, why are demons helping humans? And that's the big twist ending, basically, of like, oh, they've just been, have they been captured by other demons, or, is it really they're truly helping them? Because the girl Mujika seems quite nice. And then Sanju did, attack other intelligent demons to get them. So, what is the full situation here? Is it just, they want valuable humans as well, or not? There's a lot of questions going on here. Especially when they do the thing of like animating Mujika's face to have what looks like a kind of creepy smile on it, which is kind of interesting if you know Mujika's character, that they made that decision. But either way, it's a cool setup of like, now we can get into some stuff in terms of addressing more of just the world, and the stuff that they're going to have to cover next is really, really important. Like the next couple of chapters in the manga, let me just go through the names again. So Sanju and Mujika is the next chapter. An Old Tale, The Two Worlds, Teach Me, Friends, B0632, Part 1 and Part 2. That's the sort of stuff we're going to be covering in, I suppose, the next episode or two, depending on how quick they do the pacing. There's some really good stuff coming up in terms of, at this stage of the story, we know so little about the world. Sanju and Mujika are about to reveal to us quite a bit about the world. Not the full details, but enough where we get a sense for what actually is going on here. That we're outside the farms, but what actually is going on. Like, through William and Nerva and a lot of the sort of Ray getting items from the outside world, we know there are other humans, but this is a very different forest, and there's like wild demons out here. So what's going on in the rest of the world? Do humans and demons live together, or like you have so many questions going on, just because we've focused so heavily on Gracefield Farm as like the main location in the first season. Now our first look at the outside world, and I did like that they actually focused on that in an episode that was really fast paced. They had that scene where they just sort of montaged through all the kids just looking around at like the giant trees, they're walking on them. You get to see the the vines, the different flowers and stuff like that we've never seen before, including the flower that they put in the humans that they eat, which is kind of an interesting one. So a lot of that stuff I think is pretty cool. So yeah, I think that's really what I want to say in this review, is just that I think they actually did some really good things with this episode from an adaptation point of view, in making the decision to really fast forward through a lot of this early stuff upon escaping from the farm. Just because I actually felt, pacing wise, the manga was quite slow here, and I would have preferred almost that the manga did get straight to Sanju and Majika a little bit quicker than it did. So this episode getting straight to them is going to help the season in the long run, because I think once we get the stuff that we're going to get now, and we're introduced to some of the characters we're going to meet over the rest of this season coming up, and then going into the Goldie Pond arc coming up next, I don't think anyone's going to be particularly complaining that I can't believe we skipped over the snakes of Alva Pinera, like as if that was some like major plot point at the start of things. So this is fine. It's much more of a problem, I think, when we're going through that very important content, and they are skipping over content that feels somewhat important. They did that a few times in the first season, but hopefully, this maybe bodes well, that they have a better sense for what they can go through quite quickly versus what they should focus on a little bit more. Again, what's coming up next is going to be more of a explanation type stuff. That's going to be key to how much detail do they give us in that compared to what's in the manga versus isn't, and that so on. Because I think the creators of the anime have said that there are going to be some kind of like unique scenes that are part of the anime that aren't part of the manga, which gives you the impression they're planning to like expand on the story through the anime rather than just skip through everything. Which, if you've heard any opinions about the later half of The Promised Neverland, you'll know that probably is a demand for, especially in the later half of the story, to add in quite a bit to give context to stuff, fill out some detail, but that's much later on. I think we're still in the section of the story that I think everyone really likes, especially what we're building up to coming up immediately next. So they are my thoughts on the first episode of Season 2. Pretty positive so far. Very excited for the next episode. But yeah, they're my thoughts on the episode. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.